Hello again, my dear friends of the RD-8 Behringer Rhythm Designer. I want to make a real in-depth video on the step repeat and note repeat function here. And before I made this video, this is like, I don't know, the fourth or fifth version I'm recording right now, because I always stumbled across some things that I wasn't really aware of and that I still wanted to add into a video like this. I never thought there would be so much to say about these two functions, so let's get right to it. I prepared a little beat here. Yeah, kind of dubstep-ish maybe, or a trap-ish kind of beat. And I want to demonstrate these two functions now using the closed hi-hat part. Well, step repeat and note repeat. First of all, these two functions, they sound very similar. So how can we tell them apart? If you really think about what a step is, then you realize that a step is basically, when talking about a pattern, it is just a very specified point in time in the pattern with all the steps that you have available. In this case, by the way, I'm on a 16th beat scale here for fourth measure. So in this case, one step in this pattern would be 1/16th note. And now the important part is this 16th note, let's say I'm talking about step number 6 now, could have a number of instruments assigned to it. There could be a snare and a low tom and maybe a cowbell, all assigned to the same step. So when talking about step repeat, we're always talking about the possibility of a number of instruments being affected. And since we have 4 different types of step repeat here, either talking about 1 note, 2 notes, 4 notes. Now when we start from the very first note here, or 8 notes. So a region that's either just 1 step, 2 steps long, 4 or 8 steps long. This can be used only in real time as a performance function. This cannot be recorded into the pattern. The other function, the note repeat, though, should be looked at as something different. When it comes to note repeat, a note, each instrument in the RD-8 has a very defined, a very particular note. Sorry for my English here. Okay, you have a special note that's assigned to each instrument. When you have a controller keyboard, maybe the bass drum could be played on a middle C. I don't know the actual note number here, but you can find these MIDI notes in the map setting, by the way. When you go to settings and then press the map key here, step key number 4, that can take you through all these MIDI note numbers that are assigned to each of the instruments. So bass drum has the MIDI note number 36 assigned to it. And so a note cannot include a number of instruments unless now comes, well, maybe I shouldn't make things so complicated. Usually only one instrument is assigned to a special kind of note number. You could actually assign the same note number to 2 instruments or even all of them if you wanted, but it doesn't really make sense. That's why I stick to saying that each instrument has a dedicated note number assigned to it. So anything else would be really a huge exception here, and we're not going to get into that. So the step repeat function is affecting a region of a pattern. The note repeat is affecting a single instrument. And when we focus on the note repeat function, then these numbers here, 1, 2, 4, 8, should be viewed as the number of hits that can be programmed on a single step. And that's why when we have 1 selected, this doesn't even make sense for programming steps in, because let's say you're on a 16th beat grid like I am now, 4/4, that's the scale that you're probably going to use most of the time. Then a 16th note is just the same as placing a regular step in the pattern. This only makes sense in a real-time kind of way of using this function, like you just heard. When I'm in performance, let's say I'm making live performance and I want to use 16th notes in real time for something like this, and maybe then change up the tempo to something fast like that. This is the only way that this note repeat step 1 makes sense. It doesn't make sense for programming repeats into a pattern. Even when you're on a grid that's slower than 16th notes, like 8th notes triplets or 8th notes, you don't get any repeats from the note repeat button number 1. As I said, look at these numbers as the number of hits that can be assigned to a single step, and 1 hit is always 1 hit no matter which scale you're on. This is not a 16th note, this is 1 hit. So the real repeats only start when looking at note repeat button 2, 4 and 8. These are the actual repeats, 1 isn't. So how do we program these repeats into a pattern? I left the close hi-hats out here in this case, and I want to program in something now. Okay. Also an additional one here, and now the last 12 steps. And unfortunately, I cannot record in real time like this. It doesn't work with the trigger button. But what I can do, and I don't even need to be in record mode for this, I can press the settings knob plus step key number 11. RPT is for repeats. Then I need to make sure I'm on the right instrument and on the right page of steps. I want the first 16 steps now, and I want my first repeated note on this step key right here, number 12. Now let's listen to how this sounds. There it is. To let you see, I have to get out of settings mode again. Now using the auto scroll function, that's the repeat. You just saw it on the first page here. Step key number 12. Okay. Step key number 12 in the first page is triggered twice. All right, so now I'm going to switch auto scroll off again now, and now move over to the second half of the pattern, steps 17 to 32. These are my steps that I have programmed, and now I want to use a little repeat on them. So I press settings again, repeat, step key number 11, and now let me think of what I really want here. I think I want the first step to be affected, step key number 8. Again, 1 doesn't have any effect at all. So I'm going to have 2 hits assigned for step key number 8, and always keep in mind to not only activate the number of hits for that step, but also activate the function itself. When this key is still blinking, you don't get the node repeat on that step. And in my very first video, first contact and explaining some functions, but then I still thought I'd have to leave the settings mode now in order and get back in order to place the next step. But that's not actually true. I don't have to leave the page. I cannot set a number of steps at a time. I cannot hold down like 4 steps here and then place repeats for them all at once. I have to move over to the next step now. But when I now go back to the one step that I have placed here, I can still see that the assignment changes. I can see that, yeah, going to the next steps, none of these steps are using a repeat here, but this one is. That's the one that I just placed. So I think I don't even want repeats on the next 2, but then maybe again on step key number 11, again 2 hits, 4, 4, and 8 for the last 2. And now let's listen to how that sounds. So again, pressing settings knob to exit settings mode. Now I'm back in pattern mode, and you can see that I didn't even have record activated here. I still should have the repeats assigned. Yes. Again, auto scroll so that you can always see where the playhead is at. Okay, and it sounds pretty good. In the version I did before this one, it didn't sound as good as this because I typed in a rather weird combination of repeats. But this is how that works. I think now I have everything covered that I wanted to say. All right, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.